and it's 12:07, and I think I'm ready to go. Hello, and welcome to the weekly Wednesday Lunchtime Livestream on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. I am DDO's Community Manager, Cordovan, and I'm going to be with you for the next hour. Going to talk about tomorrow's release notes, most likely. May not be tomorrow, but either way, it's next, and we're in a position to share those with you verbally. We're going to run some content. We're going to talk a little bit about the bonuses and such. We'll take any questions that you would like to ask. I'll do my best to answer them. We've just got the release of Update 49 here. You know, that just happened, not about a week ago here. Actually, it was not long after we got done with our chat with Sev last week that we went live with Update 49. So hopefully you've had an opportunity to see this. I am feeling less spoiler sensitive today. Although I am actually considering whether or not I'm going to do one of two things in terms of content after we're done here with the notes and stuff, and that is either run hardcore or run the new quest chain. I'm kind of open to whatever the chat wants me to do. So if you have a preference, just let me know. Sounds good to me. It's obviously been quite the week, has it not? We have had a lot going on in the game over the past week. We did have, some downtime. We had a little bit of an issue last week that we had to keep the world down for longer than expected. We were actually down, basically overnight, one night this past week, and that sucked. But thankfully that issue got fixed. And the other thing that has been going on is we've been keeping an eye on game performance and lag, reading a lot of your feedback on that. I am not in a position today to really want to, I guess, make a statement as to what you think the lag situation is, but please feel free to say, have you seen game performance improvements in that? We know, and the other kind of track we've been working down here the last 4 to 5 days has been related to game performance, specifically related to things like some of the loading screen issues that has been an issue for a while now, but was continued to be reported over the weekend after these game performance changes went in place with the release of Update 49. So that's kind of where we have been, really, since the release of U49. We've been playing whack-a-mole on a few bugs and that's largely what we're getting to with this patch this week that we'll talk about here in just a second. So that's really, I guess, what's been going on the development and SSG side. As we released Update 49, we've been paying attention and doing a bunch of work related to that. We kind of had a lot of immediate short-term needs that we had to deal with while we were putting together a patch that I guess I might as well go to in just a second. Let me take one quick look through our chat rooms, make sure that everything is going well there. Who made arrows so valuable? Oops. Why were you the last to know? Yeah, that sucked. That was the issue last week. There's a brief monetary in-game currency issue. That was not actually it was along with another issue, which is ultimately why we did the build. But it is not actually fair to say. It is not actually true that we kept the worlds down because of that. We would have, there were options, right, relating to that kind of arrow issue that would not have necessarily required us to keep the game down. But there was some other stuff going on as well related to, like the game performance and things like that also kind of combined to making a new game build and keeping the worlds down until that game build was able to be released as the reason why we went that route. So it contributed to, but was not actually the cause of that overnight downtime. Little interesting fact. Thankfully, as we sit here on a Wednesday, that was largely a bit of crisis history, as it were. Thankfully, that issue is largely fixed, and those issues that were causing that was largely fixed. I did actually see one question I didn't see a question in chat, but I saw a question on the forums this week related to that I guess would make some sense to address here, and that is question of why couldn't we have, quote, just done a rollback? Um, the answer is that is an option that we can do, and certainly was something we were discussing related to our release. You know, hey, since it's only been a couple hours, could we just roll the worlds back? We did have the ability to do that. We had taken, you know, just like you're always supposed to do, and we actually did, right? We did have very good snapshots of like sort of the game prior to taking the worlds down for update 49. So that was one thought, but there is a bit of an issue that has come up when the few times there's, you know, over the last 15 years there have been a literally just singular few cases where the game has done a rollback, and there is an issue related to that is in the people know this, but it doesn't really get spread very much because it doesn't occur very much, and it's kind of a, oh, really? Bit on a rollback, and that is if we were to say release update 49 and then roll back to a pre-update 49 state, then that means that everybody's game clients who had updated to update 49 would need to reinstall the game in order to be able to play. The games, and honestly, this is a thing for most games in general. Maybe there are a few out there that can do it, but they don't roll back versioning. It's not actually something that really works very well. So what you end up with in a scenario like that is a situation where potentially, literally, the entire player base needs to reinstall the game, and nobody wants that. So it is an option, and as it's happened, we've done it, right? We did it like twice over the last 15 years that I can think of, and that is an issue that happened literally every time. But that's a big consideration, especially when trying to figure out what the best solution forward to this sort of thing is. And there are also other kinds of rollbacks. So, for example, when we had done some of this discussion last week, you know, there is a version of the rollback that can happen that doesn't require you to reinstall. What that is something like a server-side rollback that doesn't impact the game build number, for example, something like that, right? So there are it gets way more complex even than I'm kind of saying here. But in terms of the question last week of, well, why don't we just do a rollback since it's only been a couple hours? Valid question. And ultimately, in this case, that was the reason why. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, you roll forward to the old version, which is, again, another option, but in that specific case, since we had just released Update 49, we were not, and the Update 49 release was the most recent build, having us just gone live with that, say, that morning. We weren't in a position to, say, roll forward with a Update 49.1 without having to do a game build, which is ultimately what we decided to do, is we did a game build, and that takes about as long as it took, right? Because we literally had people staying up overnight to hit buttons the instant they could be hit, and then verify the build and all that sort of thing at like 2:33 in the morning or something like that, and get it out as we did by 8 a.m. that next day. So that is ultimately our thing, is we did kind of roll forward with it with a new game build, but due to the kind of specifics of the where we were sitting at that time, sort of, as you suggest on Facebook there, person, was not a possibility. Or actually was the possibility, and that is actually what we did, to be honest. That is what we did. But that is the result of kind of what happened. All right. Well, that was way more detail, I think, that I really needed to go into. But since, you know, the rollback thing has happened a few times, and we did make people reinstall, you know, it's worth bringing up. So I don't know if that means you have to reinstall the high-res stuff again or not. I would think not, but I don't know. Yeah. All right. You know, that was way more talk about that issue than I thought I was actually going to get into this week. But thankfully, here's the good news: is it was largely a serious issue for a relatively brief period of time. All right. Let me go into the release notes. Let me call up something for parallel of planar eyes. We have got a patch set for potentially this week, potentially tomorrow. We'll actually be discussing that later today, but last I heard, we were still on track for releasing this tomorrow, which is why we didn't do the restart today. So here's what is going to be changing. This is from the release notes that will most likely not change much, if at all, between now and the time they're published. Later today. Combat. The animations for Intimidate, Bluff, and Diplomacy no longer cancel the attack chain. That's due to, let's see, the animations. Yeah, so they're no longer canceling the attack chain. Swapping weapons now properly enforces its intended cooldown. Right now, we have got some that are too long, right? So we're improving that based on a bug from last week. Items. The Aegis of Asuriel now has flavor text. Asamar Scourge's Greater Scourge weapons no longer says it grants offhand double strike. It's now hidden from the buff bar, and it no longer falls off when you enter a dungeon dire rest. That's the important bit. The Greater Scourge weapons is now going to properly stick with you. The critical threat range of the collapsible short bow's been fixed. Its heroic version is back to 20 times 3, epic 19 to 20 times 3. Vivas, the Rapier of Rhapsody, now applies its spell critical damage correctly. Several new items released have got their correct material type. New update 49 things. Snakeskin Vest, Gorgon Docent, Gorgon Armor, back to being min-level 8. They had been improperly bumped up to, what was it, 12? With the release of U49. Corrected an issue that was preventing Blade Forged Iconics from getting their level 15 gear on the hardcore server. Yeah. I think, fingers crossed, we fixed that one. Sunblade no longer improperly places a buff onto your buff bar. I don't think it was actually doing anything. The magical vulnerability from Bound Fate and the physical vulnerability from Grim Fate no longer stack when effects from different ranks are applied. Rank 2 and 3 of Bound Fate now applies magical vulnerability for the correct duration of 45 seconds. I believe that was brought down, but is to what it was supposed to be explicitly since the start. Rank 3 of Bound Fate now properly applies its listed amount of 12%, and I understand that is actually a bump up, maybe, of magical vulnerability. Grim Fate now properly applies its listed amount of physical vulnerability, which is 6/10/12% based on rank. Corrected an issue with the icon of the Hardcore 4 mount. Enhancements. The wizard version of Eldritch Knight's Eldritch Blade Capstone will now properly get its +2 constitution. So if you haven't been getting your +2 con from Eldritch Blade, gonna. Knight of the Chalices Holy Retribution now restores smite charges. Again, the Communion of Scribing in the Blade Forged Iconic Enhancement tree no longer has its incorrect tooltip speed numbers. The Word of Balance SLA and Seasons Herald has had its text fixed. Tier 4 Angel of Vengeance no longer erroneously applies extra caster levels to Sunbolt. Sorry. Tier 4 of Angel of Vengeance now calls out that it applies to alignment spells. The favor reward for House Morgrave is in. It'll be +2 to search and spellcraft. +2 to search and spellcraft for maxing out your House Morgrave favor. On the feat side of things, Multitude of Missile no longer puts Many Shot on cooldown. Some outdated references to Many Shot and other abilities have been removed. The Hardcore Vendor. Ooh, this is another good one. The Hardcore Vendor will now allow access to previous rewards if you've earned them during those previous seasons. Let me make sure I put that in the notes. on the hardcore server itself. So on the hardcore server, you can now get previous hardcore server rewards if you've earned them. Only if you've earned them. And then, check this out. We actually had someone pop into Caught in the Web and do some work over in Menace of the Underdark. Caught in the Web. The quest is now slightly brighter. Lolth has fewer mobs in the final fight. Portal Keepers respawn 5 seconds slower than they were and more predictably. And then Anna now notices artifacts from further away. Huh. And then finally, the alert icon for a guild leveling up to a high level, I'm not sure what exactly the threshold for that is now going to use the legendary victory icon. All right, let me head to chat. I think it's not going to be Care Bear mode on Caught in the Web. My guess is the Caught in the Web changes are simply going to make the experience a little smoother and more fun. I don't think we're going to... I suspect it's not really going to be all that much more easy, but we'll see. We'll see. It's not like it's super tough already. All right. Okay, I am going through the chat to see what I should get on. Lag is better on your spells. Alright. I mean, it doesn't... So the general feedback that I would say about the lag work that we had done, the game performance work related to, you know, double shot and double strike and all that in particular, is that we've seen people report positively, hey, lag is better in this. I am seeing less, and it's not really technically server client latency, whatever you want to call it, right? We'll just call it lag. You know, I'm seeing less lag in X, Y, and Z. And then we've seen, you know, a fair number of people saying, maybe better. And then, you know, we've seen, as expected, to some extent, people report, I'm still getting stuck load screens, things like that. And like I say, regard to the stuck load screens, that is something that is being tracked on its own path, as it were. So I don't think it's maybe safe to say that it like revolutionized the experience here, but we'll see as we get into the game, and I would say in general, no one is saying it's worse, so that's good. But I think in general, some of the longer term feedback has yet to really settle on kind of a verdict, as it were. Had to show off my DDO hoodie? I did. I love this DDO hoodie. They made these for inside of the office for our 15th anniversary. It just says this in the cool kind of 15th logo on the back. But it's not a zip-up hoodie. It's our first in-house not zip-up hoodie, which is kind of interesting. Is nice. Looks comfy. It is. Kentos09 has a question. When is Fables of the Feywild going to be in the DDO store for points? We have got news on that. Stay tuned. Just a quick side note that we usually update our sales on Thursdays. So, we'll see where we go there, but we've got that's happening very, very soon. So I am not seeing much YouTube chat, which has me concerned that maybe it's not that it's not happening, it's that I'm not seeing. All right. Well, sorry. If you're on YouTube, try saying something, and I'll see if I can get to you. Yes. Can you get any info on whether the changes to Double Strike have had an impact on server-side performance? Yes. I mean, the answer all along has been a clear benefit on the sort of brains of the game, right? I mean, there's no question that the work to prevent our effects queue from backing up and essentially toppling over eventually, impacting everyone around it. This is simply not there because of the changes we made, or very less likely to happen. So yes, in terms of the actual impact to sort of the mechanics of the brains that run the game, yeah, that's been clear from the start. It's just mostly what kind of live experience impact does that lead to is ultimately a question that's always a real challenge to quantify. Thank you. Thank you, people in chat on YouTube. Yes, we are working. Okay, cool. What is the update on if the mail server is or mail system is causing the server issues? Will there be a mail cleanup? A delete all button, perhaps? Yes, I can talk about that a bit. Unfortunately, it is absolutely true. We have discovered that the footprint, as it were, of our mail system archive. There's so much mail in Didio's mail system that it is causing a problem. It is causing a problem. There's no question. And the question, of course, is what are we going to do about it? We had said something late this week that we had done some work looking into in that. We're going to have more info in the future. I think it is going to get to a point at some point in the future. I have no idea when, but I guess probably when we want to fix this problem, that we're going to have to cut down the amount of mail. It's going to be the extreme ends, but are there people currently sitting in the game with more than, say, 2,000 items in their mailbox? The answer is yes. How many of them? And what are we going to do, right? So we might well have to do something in the relatively near future where we're going to have to make an announcement like, hey, you've got 30 days or whatever we end up wanting to do there, right? You got 30 days to have less than as high a number as we can comfortably make it. Whatever. I don't even want to give a number now because of expectation. But let's just say, just for the purposes of trying to put some scope on it, 1,000, 500, 100, 500. I have no idea what the number is going to be, right? And you're going to have to get down to that point, or that stuff is going to get to. I think that is probably the reality of the answer that is coming in the future. So, if you are one of those person who has been like, I love using the mail system for long-term storage, it's great, perhaps, consider trying to figure out the most valuable to you, right? So, we do know, unfortunately, related to that it's not like, say, those favor emails or store points emails that are causing the problem. They're just not. I'm sorry. If that was the solution, that would be lovely, but it's not. So, yeah. I actually don't know the difference between the lesser anti-beholder crystal and the cheaper version. The lesser anti-beholder crystal, I believe, works just like the beholder ray absorbing item benefit does. And so the cheaper version of that would I'm not sure what that would do. Fewer charges, maybe? I don't actually know. All right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think you guys have, and gals and everyone, have stared at the loading screen of, or the parallel of the planar eyes long enough. Let me get in game. In other words, I think we've largely taken care of the news, as it were, going through the notes. I will take care of the bonus here as I'm logging in if I can. So the question is, do I go to hardcore and run the new quests, or do I go to... I'm already there, I believe, on Thelanis. So let's say Thelanis on my cleric and run the new quests. New quest, please. Sounds good to me. You win. And I'm calling up the bonus here while I'm logging in, and then I'll fix the load screen. Nope. Sorry, folks. I don't know what the bonus is this weekend. I'm sorry to say it didn't get written down yet. What do you want it to be? Maybe we could make it happen. Guess we need to have a little discussion today amongst maybe interested parties to figure out what tomorrow's bonus is going to be. Yeah. Small Reaper XP bonus? You do that. I don't... Well, I mean, there's nothing stopping us from doing the Mimic Hunt. I don't know that that would be the right answer, though. I do not have a level 13 on the hardcore server. I have the... So... Besides releasing update 49 on the DDO side, the other game had its anniversary week last week. And then on top of that, I've had a ton going on in my real life. So I have not had free time for myself typically until at least after about 11 o'clock at night. And so I've not had time to play hardcore much in the past week. So my character is, I believe, close to 6 or banking 6. I did run a few quests. I ran the waterworks and all the harbor solos and swipe signet. I ran swipe signet. So I did get a little bit done over this past week, but not much more than that. So I think I'm still pretty much at at or about 6, but I'm not taking 6 until I clear out any final quests and stuff that I'm doing with maybe a couple other people. So we'll see. I'm not rushing to 6, but I think I'm basically there. Oh, and I don't need to check my bank. I know what's up. I was just there. That's why I logged off. Alright, let me go and get rid of the screen, get up the client. Sorry. Boink. Move me over to here. Yeah. Alright. That should work. I'm not doing my daily dice on this character. I'm logging into my lobby after the show here today to do daily dice. Sorry. if it bothers you. Oh, I remember what I was gonna... this came up... this sparked a bit of a memory when I was looking at the quest NPCs here. And that is this person right here. This Get Your Papers Here person. Chronicle Newsboy. There's actually a story behind that. And that is around the time of... I mean, it started around the time that we released the Harbinger of Madness pack, but I seem to, for some reason, recall it really coming to a head around the Shadowfell conspiracy. There was actually a plan in place at one point to attach the weekly DDO Chronicle to this NPC, and then either keep the Chronicle as is if that's what people wanted it to be, or change it up based on what people wanted it to be, and then make it accessible in-game through this NPC. That was the reason, as it were, why this NPC showed up in this location. Clearly it never happened, and the reason for that is we ran into a whole bunch of implementation issues with basically getting that HTML and everything to display in any kind of readable format from inside of the game. Even in the process of building NPC text, well, it's like a game build, so you can't do that, right? So it just fell apart. But that is actually what that NPC is for. Ideally, back in the day. That was its purpose. Going on easy. So I am the community manager for both of Standing Stone Games games. In terms of those who maybe just didn't know that, yeah. So I sometimes, like on anniversary weeks, do spend a little bit more time on one game than the other. DDO had its shot in late February, you know. All right. I am not seeing an issue starting the launcher. I have not seen any kind of emergency emails, although I think maybe I would. Oh, got it. No. Okay. Not related.
Now that you've reached the Sulatar ruins, you can search for the Eye of Kithri. Kithri is the plane of churning chaos. So who knows what you will find within?
For those of you who don't like my hotbar setup or don't appreciate the way I do it, it makes no sense except inside of my head. I understand this, and I don't care. I recognize that people look at my hotbars and like, how do you even think? How do you think like that? I mean, it just doesn't work, right? And the answer is, well, maybe that is my problem, but it works for me. And it's the one that feels natural to me. So, ooh, and I just got a lead hit. I did 1337 damage.
Crimson magic flickers over this massive stone door, sealing it shut.
I'm not, I haven't given my I don't know yet on what my personal opinion is on Adrenaline right now. I'd be curious if anyone had any thoughts about it. I like that I'm getting him back all the time. Oh, I didn't see what the first one was. Nope. I wasn't paying attention. Okay. There we go.
The ground shakes,
There we go.
and the cavern shrine door rolls open.
All right. No, we don't do bonuses on the hardcore server. That came into conversation this past week when we did put a couple of bonuses in after the downtime and chose not to do them on hardcore. And it was something we thought about whether we should or shouldn't, but we kind of want to stick to our guns at this point because there are elements of the community that feel pretty strongly that that is the right call for us not to do bonuses really of any kind on the hardcore server. So.
A resonant hum fills the ruins as the first rune activates.
It's generally for fairness reasons, I guess I would say. Unless we were to do the bonus or maybe...
Waves of intense
well, but even then.
billow out from the chamber ahead.
We don't want anything that's going to impact the standings, per se, to be based on were you able to play that Saturday, or Sunday. Or, even if it was for a whole week, were you able to play that week? And so, getting into the mix of which...
barrier seals off the cavern passage.
Navigate this.
The secret door slides open.
So it generally
You
is
can
just
hear
easier
whispered
to
voices
say
echo from
none
further down the tunnel.
than try to deal
The
with
drow
balancing
spawns and growls.
any kind of
Seems to align.
perceived or real
Don't let them
impact that it
escape.
would have on the standings, what have you. So that's really what's up with the bonuses. Let me try to take care of these hidden hand claws first. It just didn't. Ultimately, it just kind of doesn't feel appropriate to maybe do the bonuses on hardcore. And if for some reason we were to get a whole bunch of feedback of no, please do. It's not like we're super adamant about it or anything. It just seems like the right call, and it seems like basically people agree with us. So. Yeah, I mean, there is also just the idea of hardcore is kind of about not really giving you much of a leg up. So, There is the kind of, I mean, it is hardcore, right? This is not. This is just on Menace. I'm just running the quests on Menace on my capped character while I hang with y'all for the latter half of the show here today. It is interesting. I too want to see. It's not my computer or... well, probably not my computer. Could be my internet connection, but it's probably just a... oh gosh. No, I don't think a level up sigil will ever make it a return in this game. Gosh, do you know how terrible that'd be for hardcore? Oh. There we go. Do people still loot the giant caves? I'm gonna say probably not. That said, didn't we do that just around the anniversary at some point here for our live stream? We went back to those old giant caves just for funds, and yeah, that was fun. That was cool. Interesting. So, Serious Game asks on Twitch, the new item, Legendary Chaos in a Bottle, gives an enhancement bonus. Can we expect to, rather than say equipment bonus or something like that, can we expect to see that nerfed down the line? I would need to check, I guess, with the systems team to make sure that that is their intended plan for that it's supposed to be an enhancement bonus. If it is an enhancement bonus, then I would assume, at this point, if it was intended to be an enhancement bonus, then I assume, you know, the ramifications of that choice would have been considered. In 2021, maybe not for old gear or whatever, right? But for nowadays. So, Cordovan's official guess answer, based on not actually knowing if it's supposed to be, is I would not expect it to get nerfed if it was deliberately made an enhancement bonus. However, if that was unintended, then yes, I guess it would be.
Smoke and ash fill the air as an Afridi manifests into the chamber.
Actually, I really sort of... I do. 9 minutes. Okay. I'm not sure I really have to worry about this person's fire too much. Taking a little damage, but not enough that my healing can't just sort of deal with it. Okay, someone on Facebook is saying they believe chaos in a bottle is supposed to be an alchemical bonus. So it could be a mistake on the item, have not received one themselves yet. So, yeah, I'll have to check with systems team to see who made it and whether it was intended to be. So. I am just poking around solo on hard on this quest because I'm talking and multitasking and getting to quests and not really looking to pose a challenge to myself here for the final 20 minutes or whatever of the show. This character is not really a super soloer, although as you can see I'm fairly survivable solo. I could be doing this without it. I do. But otherwise this character runs most frequently with my guildies on like Fridays and stuff, and so is more of a dedicated healer for that role. Which is fine. That's all right. Any plans for an Oculus interface for DDO? Nope. I'm gonna say probably DDO in VR is unlikely to ever be an official thing. Who knows, right? Maybe we'll live in a different world. But there have been some kind of hacks put together by VR aficionados, and you can technically get it running. And some, I believe, even that particular one you mentioned in chat. But overall, it is not a great experience due to UI elements. You know, all that UI stuff just kind of gets in the way. Right in front of your face. So you'd need to redesign. You would need to kind of work on a special VR mode, and that just doesn't really seem commercially likely for us to be doing. I don't know. Maybe something, but I just don't see it. Guess I could top up before I go to the end. I'd rather focus that resources on 4K. Yeah. Yeah, you can hide the UI with Alt-Z. But in terms of actually playing in a VR-like experience, the general feedback from the couple of folks who have done it over the years is that it actually is playable. I mean, there's nothing stopping you from playing. The actual experience is functional. And the game, like when you're standing in the marketplace or whatever, looks really cool. But actually sort of playing in a practical way using your, attack rotations and hotbars and all that other kind of thing just isn't really what it needs to be, And so it's kind of something going on. Right, exactly. Those resources would be, there's probably about approximately 1,000 other things that are likely to be prioritized over a VR version of DDO. I'm sorry. It would be cool though. Anyway, but from those who have done it, the experience is that actually playing with the kind of hotbars and quest panels and that doesn't really work. And it's a very common issue with portability of games into VR, where the standard, say, PC UI interface that is looks and feels right when playing a game on a monitor doesn't look or feel right when playing it on a VR style experience. And that's why, you know, you don't see just a whole lot more PC games coming over to VR. Because it really is generally a lot of redesign in order to make it function.
A group of cultists blocks the passage leading into the deeper cavern.
You say blocks, I'd say channels into my sword. Yep. Yeah, I don't have a 4K monitor myself. I would like to get one, and we'll see if, you know, probably within the next few years, next 2 years, I'll be getting it. But I am currently also just playing. My girlfriend, whose computer is off to the side here, she recently, because her old monitor died within around Christmassy, something like that, picked up a inexpensive 4K monitor from one of the big places, and so she's been playing DDO in 4K, and so that's been cool. It's been really cool to look at. Yeah, the hotbars are super tiny, and text is hard to read.
Everything suddenly shifts, and the ice sheet that makes
But
the floor collapses.
Honestly, it's
Lightning
not
crackles,
been
and you're hit
bad
by
enough
searing
to
heat,
cause
piercing
her nor
cold at the
me
same
when
time.
I'm checking it out
These caves
to
have
not
been
be able
caused
to
by
play it
Kith's
or not
elemental
want
chaos.
Okay, so I don't know, maybe your mileage will vary, but and yes, we do still need to do the work.
As you travel deeper into the caverns, you can feel everything slowly shift around you.
So, well, you know, the age-old which is better, performance or graphics debate, you know, that's very subjective. Someone's saying, I turned down everything for faster performance. Am I wrong? I myself, though, am kind of the opposite. I make it look as great as I can and still be able to play. So, that's pretty much how I do it. But, yeah. On my PS5, it is set to graphics mode, not performance mode. But your mileage may vary. Yeah.
A menacing voice seems to echo from everywhere at once.
The eye is a doorway into Kithri itself,
The voice croaks.
Did you think so great a prize would be easily won? Come, children. Time to feast.
What giant caves? Somebody asks over in YouTube chat. Well, way back in the day, there was this place called the Giant Caves. They're in the ruins of Trina. Wilderness area. And they came out way back in the day. And they are the only quests that aren't really in the adventure guide. Because they're not really quests. There was some kind of weird thing that came out in 2006 and that just never happened again. But they're basically these little quest rooms. And back in the day, way back in the day, about 15 years ago, when the level cap was 10, they were for a brief period, the place to go to get all of your gear. They still exist. You still get a little XP from them, that's about it. Oh, someone's saying you can get replay XP. Maybe they're actually free already? They're basically just encounter fights in the Threena Wilderness area. How amazing would that be if all of a sudden the giant caves were like popular again? I have no idea, Titan, on your question about CPU core usage of DDO. No clue. Sorry, not my wheelhouse.
With the death of the Grey Slod, the magic barrier sealing off the Eye of Kithri vanishes. You can feel the rumble of uncontrolled chaos within the Eye of Kithri as you put it into your pack. Better get the unstable artifact into the hands of more great.
I was gonna see if I could get out without this, without even aggroing that slot. Leave the blue slide behind to eventually look around and go, wait a second, what? What? This happened? Oh man. I'm either really glad I didn't notice that, or maybe I should have. Yep. Am I playing a favored soul or a cleric? A cleric. This, like I say, I would never say that anyone else should play the characters I play, but this is the one that I have worked, that works well for me. I like this character. Yeah, it's not the best DPS. Getting better when I can. Does okay. Does okay. And I enjoy it, so. That's what I am. And yes, War Domain. Is that true? Am I War Domain on this one? Let me check that. Yes. Cool. Alright, that is going to wrap it up then with the weekly Wednesday lunchtime live stream. I'll be back next Wednesday with more. We do, like I say, have a patch tentatively set for tomorrow, so expect maybe some downtime and release notes today. And I will talk to you all next week. Thank you for being here. Have fun.